It's Wednesday, March the 24th. Lake level's 916 and a half. It's come down about 2.5 feet since the report last week. And looks like they're still pulling the lake pretty hard. Now that's got a lot of the stain in the water from the river arms moving down lake. I think it's still pretty clear in the mid-lake area. I hadn't fished the last 3 days. I've got the last of my construction projects finished up. But I did get out to fish this weekend, and I'm trying to think what tournament they had a little tournament Sunday, and I think they took 18 pounds to win, and I think second was 17. But they actually had a tournament today, Joe Bass, out of Kimberling City, and I think it took 18 pounds, or no, 19 to win it, and there were several 18 and 17 pound bags. So the fish are biting really good. Now, we caught them shallow this past weekend, and I spent a lot of time up in the James River. Now, the water temperature's kind of scattered. You know, last weekend it was mid-50s up there. You know, I found some 52 to 55 degree water, especially later in the afternoon. But I think down lake in the clearer end, you know, it's probably low 50s to mid-50s. And these fish are only, you know, about 2 weeks away from, if weather will stay warm, getting on the beds. But the way I was catching them up in the James, and a lot of the guys I've talked to the last few days, they're just catching them a lot of different ways. But I've been fishing a spinnerbait and a chatterbait up there. Now the main river's got a lot of brown color to it, but you get into creeks, and it's nice, pretty green. But the water was up in the bushes, and we were catching some on a 5-fish lures, ultimate finesse jig, and a cover jig. Black and blue seem to be working good, you know, flipping the bushes. But at the water level at 916 and a half, and the way it's coming down, there's not a whole lot shoreline cover right now. So, you know, probably won't be a whole lot of stuff to flip unless the water comes back up. We got some rain coming in again tomorrow. But what I've been throwing is a 3/8 or half-ounce chatterbait. Chartreuse and white seems to be working good, and I'm using a little fluke for a trailer. And I'm throwing some different spinner baits as well. It just depends on the water clarity. If it's pretty dirty, I'm throwing a coleslaw with white blades. And I'm pretty much throwing a half-ounce on just about everything. And the reason being, even though they're biting the spinner bait and the chatterbait, I'm having to wind it really slow. It seems like the key for me is I got to be bouncing it off the bottom. And I'm not fishing that deep. Most of the time I've been in 12 to 15 foot. Any place you're going to throw a crankbait right now, I think you can throw a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, especially if there's some stain in the water. If the water's clear, you know, down lake, I throw like this, a War Eagle mouse. It's a half-ounce. You know, I'll throw something a little bit more suited better for something for the clear water. You know, one nickel and one chrome blade, and more shad colored skirt. But in the dirty water, I'm fishing something that I can feel the fish can see a little bit better. And, you know, like I say, when the water was up, we were fishing the edge of the bush lines, or the edge of the bushes, you know, in that, 3 to 5 foot of water. And a lot of the fish were coming. We caught some on the main river, some in the pockets. But, you know, the crankbaits, I know the guys that have been catching them good on a crankbait. They're throwing rock crawlers, wiggle warts, red craws, pretty hard to beat. And on the rock crawler, you know, there's 2 different models. Depends how deep you're fishing. Like the 55, you know, it'll get down about 12, 13 feet on 10-pound line. And then I believe it's a 50. It's got a little shorter bill. So if you're fishing shallower water, a lot of times the one with the shorter bill, the 50, will work a little bit better. And we did also catch some fish on square bills this weekend on a little Spro Little John, or like a little 1.5, and we were throwing a red on it. But, you know, one bait that always works good in these Ozark lakes is the Phantom Green, whether it's in a wiggle wart or the Spro rock crawler, especially in a little bit clearer water. Seems to work real well. Really good bait this time of year I like to throw a lot where I can cover a lot of water is a swing head. Now I usually throw a half-ounce, sometimes a 5/8. And I'm not trying to fish much deeper than maybe 20 foot at the deepest. But this is a bait just like the chatterbait. I want to keep it on the bottom, and but I will move it a lot slower than the chatterbait. You know, a lot of the bites on the chatterbait, you know, I haven't been a real big fan of a chatterbait because I didn't fish it a lot, but I'm finding myself, I know I talked about this on a jerkbait a while, you know, a lot of people say they don't have very good luck on a jerkbait because they don't throw it enough, and that's kind of the way I was on the chatterbait, but I'm kind of forcing myself to fish it, and it's really a versatile bait. I am finding it's not real good around laydowns. The bait, it kind of rolls over and gets hung up on them, but on open banks, it's really working good for me. I thought it was more of a bait just for grass lakes, you know, but I'm finding it's really got a good purpose here. But, you know, I try to keep this just up off of the bottom, or have been here lately, or just above the cover. And, you know, I was kind of talking about the swing bait and jump back over to the chatterbait. But this bait will just keep it moving off the bottom, you know, just a real slow reel. Kind of like you would crank a crankbait. And even the crankbait, the way I'm having to fish the crankbait is slow. Once I get the bait down, you know, the fish, you know, the water's still pretty chilly. They don't have a whole lot of chase mode in them to me. It seems like you got to present, whether it's the spinnerbait or the crankbait, you know, really slow. And what I've got here on this swing head here is a biffle bug. I think it's a Sooner Run is the color. It's like a watermelon, red on one side, green pumpkin on the other. But another bait that'll work real good on that too is a Strike King Menace. Like I say, real simple bait to fish. You can cover a lot of water with it. But you want to be looking right outside the spawning pockets. I mean, because like I say, them fish are only a week or two away from moving up in there. And a lot of the males, there's some areas I'll catch a lot of buck bass, you know, so a lot of the smaller ones are moving up. I think you can still catch some good quality fish on jerkbait and Alabama rig. You know, on a lot of these secondary points, I think a majority of the fish that have been out there deep, I don't think they've made a move yet. They're going to be making a move pretty quick to like the main lake points, bluff ends, some of the channel swings out there coming up out of deep water. And also, we need to be looking on them long gravel flats with a 2.8 or 3.2 Kitech or Rage Swimmer, little swim bait, shad colored 1/4 ounce head light line. And I was finding, you know, last week in order to get bit on it, I had to be banging the bottom with it. But then fish should be starting to get up in that water column where, you know, you might be in 20 feet, but you'll see the fish down there about 8 or 10 feet. Just count it down and just do a steady retrieve. But, you know, a lot of things starting to come into play as the water's warming up. But still, I think sometimes we want to fish too fast and the fish want it pretty slow. I think, so I'm finding the key for me is, you know, slowing down. Whether I'm fishing the jig, chatterbait, or whatever I'm fishing, just, you know, try to keep in contact with the bottom. And a lot of the bites, like on the chatterbait, if you feel that blade stop thumping, you want to just kind of swing, you know, set the hook on it. Same with the spinnerbait. If you feel them blades stop spinning, jerk. A lot of times the fish aren't, you know, knocking slack in your line. They're just sucking the bait in and the blade stops spinning. Now, some areas of the lake you will find that the moss is a problem with the crankbait. But a lot of times you get on a bank on the other side of the cove and the moss isn't that bad. To some areas it's worse than the other. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.